In the year of the college entrance examination, I fell in love with Zoe desperately. It wasn't until I failed the college entrance examination that he threw my pregnancy test report in front of my father. Teacher Jack, the daughter you're so proud of is now a girl who got pregnant by me. Congratulations on becoming a grandfather soon. But I have no intention of taking responsibility. Then he went abroad to study, leaving behind a mess. It turned out that he thought my father had indirectly caused the death of his first love, so he wanted to drag me into the abyss to avenge his first love. My father passed away suddenly due to a heart attack, and my mother lost her mind, had a car accident, and became paralyzed from the waist down. As for me, I lost the title of a college student and became an unmarried mother who had just come of age, despised by everyone. 10 years later, I met Zoe again. He knelt in front of me regretfully, saying that he still loved me. When I received Charles's WeChat message, I had just finished tutoring Sarah. His message was concise: 9 o'clock in the evening, at XY Club, dress nicely, and don't be too revealing, it's an important business dinner. I put down my phone, kissed my daughter's forehead, and softly coaxed her to sleep. The 9-year-old Sarah obediently closed her eyes, her little hand tightly clutching the hem of my clothes, reluctant to let me go. Since my benefactor had given the order, I had to obey. I quickly put on a light makeup to cover up my fatigue. When I arrived at the club, there were voices of conversation coming from inside. You're really amazing, Charles. Your little lover is famous for being beautiful in our circle. I heard she's also a college student from a prestigious university. Mr. James, you're overpraising her. She only has a high school education and didn't go to college. If she had gone to college, I wouldn't be able to afford her. Charles's voice, which seemed mocking, faintly revealed a sense of pride. But she does look quite good, otherwise, I wouldn't have kept her for 8 years. Her price is just right. I can keep a little vixen with a small amount of money. Charles cared about face, especially when using me as a topic of conversation. He felt particularly proud. After being Charles's mistress for 8 years, I was already used to his habit of showing off in front of others. Without any emotional fluctuation, I was just about to push open the door when Mr. James' tone carried a hint of warning. Watch your words. There are people who brought their families today. Snow comes from a decent family. Hold back your usual mean and pretentious remarks in private. Don't scare people. I pushed open the door and heard a very cold and deep voice more clearly. Snow isn't feeling well today and shouldn't drink. I'll toast everyone on her behalf. He raised his eyes and looked at me, and his voice stopped abruptly. Even the hand holding the glass froze. After a full 10 years, Zoe and I actually met again in such a way. All eyes were on me, with some showing amazement, some with a teasing look, and some with contempt. Charles's tie was askew. After I tenderly and affectionately helped him readjust it, I sat down beside him. Zoe's expression quickly changed from shock to alienation, after understanding what identity I had come with. It showed undisguised sarcasm. After not seeing each other for 10 years, he was a successful man in a suit, accompanied by his legitimate fiancée, Snow, and I was the mistress of the 48-year-old Charles, someone who could be summoned and dismissed at will. Honey, didn't I tell you to be here at 9 o'clock? Why are you half an hour late? How dare you make all the bosses wait for you alone? Quickly apologize to everyone. I looked around the scene. Besides Snow, there was another young girl who was obviously also a mistress sitting beside Mr. James. The significance of her and me being in this scene was self-evident. I immediately smiled and said many clever words, and punished myself by drinking 3 glasses of wine. Charles, you really dote on this little lover of yours. Just drinking as an apology isn't enough for being so late, is it? She's being thoughtless. But why are you being thoughtless too? Mr. James looked at me brazenly, his eyes wandering over my body. Charles didn't have any powerful backers in this city where every inch of land was precious. He had built his own business purely through his own efforts. It was not difficult to see that he was the one with the lowest status at this dinner. He looked at me and hesitated for a moment, then instructed me to pour wine for all the bosses. I understood his meaning and sweetly poured wine for everyone while apologizing. When it was Mr. James' turn, his hand seemingly accidentally touched my thigh. I instinctively looked at Charles. Fortunately, he didn't notice. Otherwise, it definitely wouldn't be Mr. James who would suffer. I skillfully got rid of Mr. James, whose eyes were glued to me, and finally poured wine for Zoe. Zoe had seen the flirting just now. He watched coldly, with a faint hint of sarcasm on his lips. I obediently went back to Charles's side. when I was being so attentive that I almost wanted to feed him every bite of food. Charles's wife arrived. She was wearing a branded suit, well-maintained, and exuding a powerful aura. Charles's wife, Linda, her sudden appearance made the atmosphere instantly become very subtle. Among the looks exchanged between the men, there was a sense of schadenfreude. I saw Charles's face instantly turn stiff. I had thought that Linda would lose her temper on the spot and tear my face apart, just like in the TV dramas. But she didn't even give me a single glance. Completely ignoring my existence, as if I was just a piece of furniture in the private room, not worth mentioning, Linda gracefully took her seat, wearing a proper smile on her face, and exchanged pleasantries with the men present. She was composed and directed Charles to do things. "Husband, what are you daydreaming about? We, husband and wife, should apologize to all the bosses together. It's all my husband Charles's fault today. He insisted on driving my car to visit my parents yesterday. And he didn't even know when the car broke down. It made me late." Charles quickly reacted and kept agreeing. He attentively poured wine for everyone. Linda took the glass of wine handed to her by Charles. "I'm really sorry. My husband has a bit of a timid character and is afraid of his wife. I'm making you all laugh." She paused, and her tone changed. "However, my husband's ability in business is still trustworthy. For our family's business. If there's anything that Charles can't make a decision about in the future, you can just contact me directly." After saying that, she raised her glass and drank it all in one gulp. After drinking 3 full glasses of white wine, she didn't change her expression. "Sister-in-law is truly a heroic woman." Mr. James took the lead in clapping. "With such a virtuous and capable wife, Charles, you should be secretly happy, that's for sure. Sister-in-law's courage is something that even we men feel ashamed of." Linda was a smart woman who commanded respect. The men around her chimed in one after another, and the words of praise kept coming. I didn't have much of an emotional reaction, not even a hint of embarrassment, because I was a mistress and didn't deserve it. Linda only gave me a sidelong glance throughout the whole process. And I clearly understood the meaning she wanted to convey. "Who do you think you are? I'm going to the restroom." Snow suddenly stood up, walked beside me, and motioned for me to accompany her. I obediently followed her and walked out of the private room. In the restroom, Snow's voice came through the mirror. "You're both beautiful and young. Why do you have to be someone else's mistress? Do you really want to earn this kind of dirty money?" I thanked Snow for her well-intentioned attempt to help me out and gave a bitter smile. "But I have neither the ability nor the education. This is the most suitable way for me to survive that I can think of." Snow sighed and continued, "That's not a reason for you to degrade yourself." I carefully looked at Zoe's fiancée. She was gentle and elegant. Her words and deeds all reflected her superior background. Such a person must not understand why, with my own hands and feet, I would condescend to be a mistress just for a monthly allowance of $10,000. How should I explain it to her? Because I'm a failure. I can't afford my mother's high medical expenses by delivering takeout or doing manual labor. After the dinner party ended, when there were only Charles, Linda, and me left in the private room, Linda finally dropped her pretense and slapped me in the face with a cold smile. "You're just a slut who can only sell your smiles under a man, you shameless bitch. How dare you have the nerve to come to such an important business dinner? You're a piece of trash with no parents to teach you how to behave." She screamed, punching and kicking me, and shouting all kinds of dirty words. I really wanted to tell her that my father was dead, and my mother was half dead and paralyzed. There was indeed no one to teach me how to behave anymore, but I couldn't say a word. I protected my face and let her beat and scold me. Charles tried to stop her, but Linda stopped him with a single sentence. "If you dare to protect her, I'll divorce you immediately." Charles hesitated and could only pretend to stop Linda. Linda became more and more agitated. She picked up an ashtray and threw it at my head. Suddenly, an arm grabbed Linda, and he said calmly, "This is a public place. You can sort out your grudges in private. I don't want to be photographed and cause public opinion, which will affect our cooperation." Zoe had returned. His face was ashen as he stopped Linda. Charles gratefully glanced at Zoe, entrusted him to send me to the hospital, and then took Linda away. In the car, we were silent all the way. Zoe's face was terribly gloomy. He stared ahead and didn't say a word. I was sitting in the back seat. When I found that it wasn't the way home, I finally spoke up. "I don't need to go to the hospital, please, Mr. Zoe. Just drop me off at the intersection ahead." "Riley, I never realized you were so despicable before." Zoe suddenly spoke, his voice cold. Even though you didn't get into one of the top universities in the country back then, you still graduated from a first-class institution. How could you debase yourself like this and be willing to be so lowly? Didn't teacher Jack always uphold strict discipline? Does he know that you're out here selling yourself? Or is it that he also has the nerve to take the money you earn from selling yourself and rely on his daughter? After all, he was already expelled from the school. When Zoe mentioned teacher Jack, there was full of sarcasm in his words. If I told him now that my father had died 10 years ago because of him, would he laugh with pride? Mr. Zoe, I'm not going to the hospital. Please stop the car. Zoe ignored me and continued to mock. What's wrong? You don't have the face to tell the doctor that you were beaten by the legal wife. You know it's embarrassing. You've been a mistress for 8 years already. Why are you still trying to hide it now? I was physically and mentally exhausted. I ignored Zoe's words and was worried about Sarah in my heart. Mr. Zoe, let me get out of the car. Zoe sneered with a look that was hard to tell whether it was anger or mockery. You didn't fight back when you were being beaten just now, but you're being tough on me. I'm your benefactor's client. I advise you to put on the flattering smile you had at the dinner table when you face me. I nodded, thinking it made sense, and put on a smile. You're right, Mr. Zoe. I should have the self-awareness of being a mistress. If the legal wife wants to vent her anger, I'll let her beat me, but I protected my face to avoid getting disfigured and having trouble finding the next person to support me. Zoe suddenly stepped on the brake. The car made a harsh sound and stopped by the roadside. He turned his head and stared at me intently, his eyes as if he wanted to eat me alive. Get out. Don't dirty my car. I expressionlessly pushed open the door and left as he said, I'm not really a person who has no desires or concerns and remains calm no matter what happens. Rather, after being tortured by life for 10 years, I'm so tired that I even feel tired when my emotions fluctuate. Instead of feeling sorry for myself, it's better to earn more money. When I got home, the scene in front of me took my breath away. Sarah's small body was curled up on the ground, her face purple, breathing rapidly, and her little hand reaching in vain towards the cabinet where her asthma spray was placed. Panic instantly overwhelmed me. Only my daughter can make my emotions surge. I trembled as I sprayed the medicine on her. It was only when her breathing gradually stabilized that I dared to burst into tears. Sarah was held in my arms, and her little hand gently patted my back. Mom, don't cry. I'm sorry. I've caused you trouble. Sarah soothed me as if she were comforting a child. She has always been so sensible. After she fell asleep again, I looked at myself in the mirror, in a sorry state, and raised my hand to give myself 2 slaps. The slaps Linda gave me hurt on the surface, but these 2 slaps hurt in my heart. In order to attend that humiliating dinner, I was so careless that I put my daughter's life-saving medicine out of her reach. I went back to my daughter's side, seeing her peaceful sleeping face. I finally calmed down completely. If my father hadn't suddenly passed away 10 years ago, and my mother hadn't had a car accident in a trance because she couldn't bear the blow, then Sarah would surely be able to snuggle in the arms of her kind grandmother now, eating the fruit handed to her by her grandfather who doted on her to the extreme. But now, she only has a dirty mother and a grandmother who has had her lower body amputated due to a car accident and is paralyzed in bed and crazy. When the family misfortune occurred 10 years ago, Sarah was just 3 months old, and I didn't have time to go to the hospital to have an abortion. During the period when I dropped out of school and sold my family property to treat my mother, it was enough for me to forget that I was still pregnant. Slowly, my belly grew bigger. In order to take care of my mother who suffered from fecal and urinary incontinence, I fainted from exhaustion countless times, but the baby in my belly was still tenaciously alive. When I first felt her faint but firm heartbeat, I gave up the idea of having an abortion. At that time, I was young and just thought that my life couldn't get any more miserable. If things really didn't work out, the 3 of us could just die together. My mother hated Zoe, hated me, and by extension, also hated the child I had with him, so she firmly refused to see Sarah. To avoid their contact, I had to be even more stretched thin traveling back and forth between the 2 places to take care of them. Thus, the idea of not wanting to live anymore became concrete when Sarah was 2 years old. My mother's mental state became more and more serious. When she was crazy, she hated me to the core. Every day, she cursed me with the most vicious words, saying that I had killed my father. As long as I got close to her, I would be beaten. She even tried all kinds of ways to commit suicide. I was exhausted, so I brought my mother home. I fed her and Sarah milk mixed with sleeping pills respectively, and prepared to commit suicide by burning charcoal. Perhaps it was because God couldn't bear it, and a miracle happened. In the thick smoke, Sarah actually woke up first. She stumbled over to me and, imitating what she had seen on TV, pressed on my chest clumsily and helplessly. Amidst her cries of, "Mom," she attracted the neighbors to come and rescue us. Since then, no matter how difficult life was, I didn't dare to have the thought of committing suicide again. Sarah and my mother must live longer than me, in order to cover the several $1,000s of nursing fees for my mother every month and the money for Sarah's milk powder. I went to work part-time in a KTV and engaged in the business of accompanying people to drink, many times. I hesitated whether to sink completely, because after all, working in the sex trade earns much more than accompanying people to drink, until I met Charles, who was 20 years older than me. When I was 20 years old, he was the first benefactor in my chaotic life. He stopped me from being slept with by many people and said that I just needed to be with him. And he solved the expenses for my mother's caregiver and medical treatment. I suddenly felt much more relieved. 8 years ago, he started by giving me $3,000 a month, and now it's $10,000. When I learned that he had a family, I once wanted to break up with him. He took out a video of his wife having sex with a gigolo in the swimming pool, put his arm around me, and said, "I'm too deeply tied to her by interests to get a divorce, and she can't have children. We've long understood that we can play around separately. Don't worry and stay with me, I won't treat you badly." When simply living a stable life has become a luxury, dignity and morality are worthless, so I became his mistress with a clear conscience. I'm not afraid of retribution in the future, because my retribution has never stopped since I met Zoe when I was 16 years old. For 10 years, it has been like a persistent sore that has been torturing me bit by bit. The beginning of my tragedy started when I fell in love with Zoe at first sight in my first year of high school. At that time, he was always followed by a tag-along named Jenny. The whole school tacitly agreed that Jenny was the girlfriend of the popular figure Zoe, and I was another popular figure at that time. I was proud and confident then. I buried this throbbing deep in my heart and watched him silently. In my senior year of high school, they broke up after Jenny transferred schools. My grades had never dropped from the first place in the grade. I firmly believed that I had the strength to compete for the provincial top scorer in the college entrance examination, so Zoe approached me under the pretext of asking for advice. I was just starting to have romantic feelings, and I was overjoyed by his approach. I indulged in the web of love he wove and thought it was love. We had a passionate love affair that no one knew about. Until the eve of the college entrance examination, I found out that I was pregnant. I was terrified and failed the college entrance examination. My score was only enough for a first-class university. The night before, he was still holding me and promising to get married after the graduation trip. The next day, he threw my pregnancy test report and my college entrance examination transcript in front of my father. "Teacher Jack, the daughter you're so proud of is now a girl who got pregnant by me. Congratulations on becoming a grandfather soon." He left no room for me. He went abroad on the same day after revealing the truth. I then realized how ridiculous this love, based on revenge was. My father was Zoe and Jenny's homeroom teacher in their senior year of high school. Jenny was originally a top student with both good character and academic performance. In the last year of preparing for the college entrance examination, she started to be late for school and leave early continuously, and her grades plummeted. My father attributed all this to puppy love, which had a bad influence on the atmosphere of the top class. So, for a whole week of morning meetings, my father made Jenny and Zoe stand in punishment in front of all the teachers and students and publicly criticized them. The double blow to her body and mind made Jenny suffer from depression, and she soon chose to commit suicide. In order to calm the matter down, the school compensated Jenny's guardians with a sum of money and concealed the news of Jenny's suicide. Claiming that she had transferred schools, Zoe put all his hatred on my father. In Zoe's angry scolding, we learned that Jenny's parents had died early, and she had been living with her uncle. Her uncle not only disliked her, but her aunt also made things difficult for her in every way. After high school, her uncle developed the bad habits of gambling and drinking. He either beat or scolded Jenny and even had the idea of making her drop out of school and work in the sex trade. During that period of being late and leaving early, it was the most difficult situation for Jenny. Zoe was the only light in her life, but the public punishment became the last straw that broke her. "Now I've made your daughter pregnant. You, a high-sounding people's teacher, don't forget your roots. Remember to punish your daughter properly. You also have to take your proud daughter to a hidden place to have an abortion." After all, the backbone of teacher Jack can't be bent. If people know that your daughter is unmarried and pregnant, you won't be able to rest in peace even after you die. That night, my father hit me for the first time, then he hugged me and cried. The old man who was about to retire apologized to me again and again. It's your father who has hurt you. Then he had a sudden myocardial infarction and died after failing to be rescued. My mother had a car accident in a trance and had her lower body amputated to save her life. Now I'm a nominal store manager in a small clothing store invested by Zoe. The business is slow, but I don't need to worry about purchasing goods. There are employees in the store, and I just need to collect the money. This job gives me plenty of time, making it convenient for me to go to the mental hospital where my mother is at any time and pick up and drop off Sarah at school. For some reason, Zoe began to appear in front of me frequently on various pretexts. He often parked his eye-catching luxury car in front of the store, and it would stay there for most of the day. Charles quickly noticed something was wrong. When I was almost home, he called to ask. He has a strong possessive desire. I didn't want my benefactor to be suspicious, so I made up an excuse to distance myself from Zoe. After I soothed Charles, I hung up the phone and saw Zoe's car parked right in front of my house. He was standing beside the car and had obviously heard our conversation. Zoe's face was gloomy. He grabbed me and dragged me into the car, and the car door slammed shut. Let's get straight to the point. I'll support you. You break up with Charles. I almost sneered and gave Zoe a puzzled look. Mr. Zoe, please behave yourself. I won't leave Charles. I'll pretend I didn't hear what you said. Zoe said, you're already selling yourself. Why are you putting on a show of deep affection? Whoever you sell yourself to is the same. Do you really have to cling to that married old man Charles? I didn't even want to pay attention to him and immediately tried to get out of the car, but Zoe locked the car door like he was crazy and stared at me with red eyes without saying a word. I knew this was a sign that he was angry, but why should I care about his emotions now? Mr. Zoe, the place I live in now, my job, and even my food and clothing all depend on Charles. He gave me a hand when I had nothing. He's been kind to me. Zoe sneered and tapped the steering wheel impatiently with his fingertips. I can give you all these things, and even better than what he gives. I was really too lazy to continue to prevaricate with him. Zoe, don't you hate me? You hated me so much that you destroyed me. I looked at him and said without any change in my voice, it's been 10 years already. You still don't plan to let me go. And you've come up with a new way to torture me, right? After all, we were in a relationship before. Zoe's expression was unreadable, and he seemed eager to interrupt me. I don't want a woman I used to be with to now be with a man who is much worse than me. Riley, you're embarrassing me. His tone was as if he was giving me a great favor. For 10 years, I have countless times hated and spurned myself for having fallen in love with him. Today, this hatred reached its peak. I even wanted to slap myself and ask why I had fallen in love with Zoe. I interrupted his self-indulgence expressionlessly. Zoe, Mr. Zoe, I sincerely hope that you won't appear in front of me again in the future. Charles has already been suspicious. I especially don't want my relationship with Charles to be affected because of you. His face froze, and he quickly covered it up. Riley, don't be too narcissistic. Who are you trying to show your high morals to? You're just a mistress that anyone can sleep with now. It doesn't matter who you're a mistress for, does it? I'm young and strong and richer than him. Are you worried that I can't satisfy you, or do you naturally like to find someone who can be your father? I just thought it was absurd and speechless. Zoe, you're going to get married. I heard from Charles that the other party's family has some power and influence. He really didn't seem to care. So what? Do you pick the wives of the people you're a mistress for? Your fiancé has power and influence, which is different from Charles's wife. I calmly stated the fact. At most, Charles's wife will come and beat me up, but if Snow's parents know about my existence, they will kill me. Zoe's expression froze for a moment, but it was quickly replaced by a deeper sense of hostility. I'm not that useless guy Charles, who has the guts to find a mistress but not the guts to protect her. I sneered and looked at him in disbelief. Mr. Zoe, are you showing your determination to me? He was at a loss for words and started to speak recklessly again, until he mentioned my father again. My calm emotions were finally ignited. Zoe, since you miss my father so much, why don't you go to heaven and ask him for the debt yourself? He paused. What do you mean? I originally wanted to be angrier, but in the end, it could only turn into a tired statement. My father died 10 years ago. Paying with his life for your first love girlfriend, my life was also destroyed by you. I wouldn't have met Charles without you. You're the one who brought us together, so I will never be your mistress in this life. I just want you to disappear." Zoe's expression instantly became flustered. He couldn't believe it for a moment and instinctively took out his phone to investigate and verify. Just when the atmosphere between us reached its lowest point, Charles knocked on the car window beside me. Zoe reluctantly unlocked the car door, and I immediately explained to Charles without changing my expression. Charles didn't dare to offend the business partner, so he could only force a smile with an unpleasant look on his face. He lowered his posture, but Zoe seemed even more irritable and sat in the driver's seat without saying a word. Charles grabbed my wrist tightly and dragged me home. I could feel his anger. I could also feel the gaze from behind following me as I walked away. When we got home, Charles directly threw me onto the sofa and roared, "Do you want to sleep with Zoe? Are you attracted to his youth and wealth?" I denied it. He pressed on step by step. "Recently, he's been around you every day. With his status, he surely wouldn't condescend to take a fancy to you, would he? You have a seductive face and are always flirting around. Riley, remember that you're a slut. If you dare to cheat on me, I'll kill you." Charles has been kind to me for all these years by helping me. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to hold on. He's not a bad person by nature, but he has an extremely strong possessive desire and is used to speaking recklessly when he's angry. I just need to calm him down. I patiently and gently coaxed him with a submissive expression. However, Zoe's appearance might have really made him feel an unprecedented sense of crisis. The usual methods didn't work this time, and his anger grew stronger and stronger. Sarah ran out of the room, hugged Charles's leg, and cried, "Uncle Charles, don't hit my mom." She didn't understand why Charles, who had been so kind to her and whom she had regarded as a father figure, was bullying her mother. Charles pulled Sarah away, grabbed her arm, and locked her in the bedroom. Then, through the thin door, he roughly tore at my clothes. "Let go of me. Sarah is still at home. Riley, you're alive only because of me. Everything you eat, wear, and use, which one wasn't provided by me. How dare you flirt with other men? A dog can't change its habit of eating shit. You're just cheap. Once you became a mistress, you've been constantly thinking about sleeping with other men. Is Zoe someone you can even dream of getting involved with?" He tried several times to slap me, but in the end, he didn't carry out this idea. Sarah couldn't stop crying and shouting inside the door. I pleaded with him to stop and not do this in front of the child. He spat and said he wanted Sarah to know what kind of person her mother was. Then, to match his insults, he deliberately made more noise with his actions. Suddenly, I stopped struggling and just bit my lower lip tightly. I couldn't resist Charles, or else it would mean my mother's death. After Charles finished, he finally calmed down. When he saw that I was expressionless and let him do as he pleased, he realized that he had lost control. He avoided my gaze and didn't dare to look directly at my numb expression. Then he immediately transferred $20,000 to me and left as if fleeing in a hurry. I looked at the amount of this compensation after the event and silently put on my clothes. $20,000 is enough for my mother's hospitalization and nursing fees for 2 months. What can I do in these 2 months? This was the first time in many years that I had the idea of leaving Charles. He could hurt me, but he couldn't hurt Sarah. After adjusting my expression, I opened the door that had locked Sarah inside. I saw that her right toenail was turned up and oozing blood. Apparently, she had injured it while struggling just now. Sarah was curled up on the ground, breathing heavily with a pale face. She had obviously had an asthma attack due to the fright. I suppressed the panic in my heart, quickly rummaged through her school bag to find the emergency spray, and then picked her up and rushed to the hospital. At the entrance of the community, I unexpectedly saw Zoe, who hadn't left yet. His car was parked in a hidden place, and he was standing beside the car with a complicated expression. When he saw me rushing out with Sarah in my arms, he was taken aback for a moment and then carefully stepped forward to ask. After thinking for a while, I got into his car again. Sarah was having her wound bandaged in the emergency room. Zoe stayed by her side the whole time. The way he looked at Sarah was filled with disbelief. The daughter takes after the father. Sarah looks so much like him. I confessed to Zoe that Sarah was his daughter. This was the first time I saw regret on Zoe's face. Charles probably didn't know how to face me, and he suddenly went out of contact. Instead, 3 days later, Zoe appeared by my side even more recklessly. He replaced Sarah's medicine with expensive imported medicine and bought a whole roomful of clothes and stationery, all famous brands that my daughter and I had never seen before. It was as if he had forgotten all the past. He He picked up and dropped off Sarah at school on time every day, and as a result, I had more time to go to the hospital to take care of my mother. Sarah really liked this uncle, who suddenly appeared. Her classmates all envied her, saying that not only was her mother beautiful, but her father was also handsome. When Zoe heard this, he proudly picked Sarah up and kissed her on the forehead, and then bought imported snacks for all the children. Amidst the continuous envious cheers of the little friends, Sarah blushed and smiled happily. This was a completely different kind of happiness from when she was with Charles. He bought groceries as if nothing had happened every day and cooked 3 meals a day himself. Even if I ignored him, he could still chat enthusiastically to himself, chattering on and on. Sarah knew that I didn't like Zoe, so she also ignored him when the three of us were together. Only when she thought he was too pitiful being left out did she carefully say something. Looking at my expression for cues, I didn't object to Zoe's behavior towards Sarah. With his ability, he must have already found out everything that had happened in the past 10 years. Everything he did for Sarah was only right and proper. And I just needed to endure the nausea and keep arousing his sense of guilt and then make use of it. I had to plan for Sarah's future. It's just that every time I poured out the nutritious meals that Zoe prepared for my mother, I felt a bit sorry for the food. This strange situation lasted for half a month. Zoe suddenly took me to a villa that looked extremely valuable. After he showed me around, with a gentle look in his eyes and a hint of unease, he asked, "Are you satisfied? The best hospitals and schools are equipped around here." There was a trace of barely noticeable nervousness in Zoe's voice. "This place is very suitable for Sarah's living environment. If you like it, I'll transfer the property to your name immediately." I looked at him calmly and said, "Zoe, you're about to get married. Are you planning to keep a mistress in a golden house?" Zoe quickly explained, "I've already broken off the engagement with Snow. I'm single now. Sarah is my daughter. And this is what I should do." Looking at the tall buildings of the hospital and the private school that could be reached in a 10-minute walk, I was somewhat tempted, but I couldn't bet on Sarah's stability. I still calmly refused him, based on my understanding of him. Only by pushing him away more could his sense of guilt reach its peak. Sure enough, after some arguing, he knelt in front of me. The sound of his knees hitting the ground was particularly clear in this empty house. He looked up, his face full of tears, and his voice hoarse with regret. "Riley, I know everything now. Just an apology can't make up for the harm I caused you. Now I just want to do everything I can to compensate you. As long as you agree, I'll rearrange the funeral for Teacher Jack and let him rest in peace. Auntie can't stay in the current hospital anymore. If you think it's okay, I want to transfer her to the top hospital abroad and let her receive the best treatment." He was talking incoherently and sobbing. "I love you, Riley. My love for you 10 years ago wasn't fake. Jenny and I weren't actually in a relationship. She was just a poor girl I accidentally saved. She had a rough life experience. After I helped her, she regarded me as her support. I tacitly allowed her to stay by my side out of kindness. You're the only one I've ever loved." I sneered in my heart. Only now did I truly see Zoe clearly. He wasn't kind, nor did he like to spread love everywhere. He was simply the kind of person who loved whoever was more miserable and was deeply immersed in his own fairy tale world. "I was young and impulsive before and did things that hurt your whole family, Riley. I fled abroad because I realized that I loved you. I haven't had a good day in the past 10 years because of hurting you." I looked at him quietly, at this man who had once made my heart flutter and then made me despair. "Can being young and impulsive be an excuse for your irresponsibility? All the harm you caused to my family can't be offset just by cooking a few meals and being nice to Sarah." Zoe, ask yourself, was Snow's death really caused by my father, whether it was Snow or me? You chose to run away and be irresponsible. In the end, it led to the tragedy of my family. I watched him kneeling in front of me, slapping himself in the face with regret and pain, and crawling at my feet to repent. I didn't feel the slightest bit of pleasure in my heart. I just wished that my father could come back to life, that my mother could recover her health, and that I had never met Zoe. My voice became even colder. "It's too late to say these things now. Sarah is your daughter, and you should take responsibility for her. But I will never accept the money for my mother's treatment or your so-called compensation for my father, because my father is still watching from heaven. I've lost my pride, but my father can't." After saying that, I turned around and left. He hoarsely pleaded in despair behind me, "I'm sorry. Give me a chance. Please give me a chance. I have cancer." When I learned that Zoe was ill, to be heartless, I was happy, as he said. In the past 10 years, he had developed all kinds of bad habits such as smoking and drinking that could lead to his illness. He couldn't eat or sleep well, and his physical condition deteriorated day by day under multiple mental blows. When he was doing a DNA test with Sarah, he learned that he was in the late stage of gastric cancer. Just as I was calculating what to do next, an accident happened. The fact that I was a mistress to a married man was somehow exposed at Sarah's school. Some people spread the rumor that the wealthy man I was with was on the verge of bankruptcy, and I had hooked up with another married man. When I went to pick Sarah up from school, several of her best little friends pushed her to the ground. They pulled Sarah's hair and called her a child born to a prostitute, saying that she was dirty. I was so angry that I saw stars and pushed down the child who had been the most ruthless. I protected Sarah in my arms, then I immediately called 911. When the child's mother saw that I had pushed her daughter, she immediately flew into a rage. She seemed to particularly hate mistresses, just like in the TV dramas. She threw a bag of eggs at me. The stinky egg liquid flowed down my cheeks and hair, sticky and disgusting. She spoke recklessly, calling on the onlookers to denounce me together, and the swear words were unbearable to hear. "You shameless slut. A bitch who destroys other people's families. You have a loose morality. All you know is spreading your legs and selling yourself. The daughter you gave birth to isn't any good either. I'm going to take a picture of you and post it online so that netizens can scold you bitches who only know how to seduce men together." She raised her phone to record a video. Sarah broke free from my embrace and threw her school bag at the woman. The woman staggered from being hit by Sarah and actually raised her hand to hit Sarah. I immediately fought with her. In the scuffle, I lost my mind and picked up a brick, ready to hit her. Zoe suddenly appeared, with a dark expression, and stopped me, holding back his anger. He pushed the woman down with a dangerous look in his eyes. Then he told me that he was recording and not to do anything that would be disadvantageous to myself. He protected me and Sarah and declared to everyone that he was Sarah's biological father. He said that he had been pestering us mother and daughter like a dog, and anyone who dared to spread rumors and cause trouble would be waiting to be sued. After the police took us away, Sarah threw herself into Zoe's arms and burst into tears. She rarely cried so sadly, and it made my heart ache to hear it. "Mom is the best mom in the world. Why did those people want to hurt her? Uncle Zoe, will you also bully my mom in the future?" Zoe held Sarah in his arms. His body was shaking, and he didn't dare to answer. He opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but couldn't say anything. Only the joints of his hand holding the steering wheel turned blue, and the nails of his other hand dug deeply into his flesh. I don't know what means he used, but the scuffle was defined as the other party provoking trouble. His top-notch legal team made the other party compensate $300,000 for violating privacy and the right to reputation. For an ordinary family, $300,000 might be all their savings. So she brought her child and came to my place to apologize in person. I didn't agree to withdraw the lawsuit until they had received Sarah's forgiveness. After all, I didn't care about the harm they caused me. A mistress is someone that everyone wants to condemn. Zoe transferred Sarah to a prestigious private school located beside the villa. The following few days were quite eventful, and people kept coming to find me. The first one was Charles. He looked a bit haggard, with bloodshot eyes, and most of his former arrogance had dissipated. He told me that there were problems in his business recently. Although it hadn't reached the point of bankruptcy, it had also suffered a great deal. After all, I had been with him for 8 years, and there was some genuine affection. He stammered an apology for what had happened before. Then he said sincerely that he still had over $1 million in personal property if he left everything behind and got a divorce. He asked if I would be willing to be with him and have a child for him. Charles's wife couldn't have children, and he had always wanted a child, but he was also a responsible father. He didn't want his child to be an illegitimate one, so he had just jokingly mentioned it to me before. This time, he was serious. I looked at him, feeling mixed emotions in my heart. I told him about the grudges between Zoe and me, as well as Sarah's background. Then I sincerely thanked him for his help to me over the years, and I didn't blame him. I also made it clear to him that it was over between us. He knew that his current situation was mostly due to Zoe's treatments. After weighing the pros and cons while smoking half a pack of cigarettes, he agreed to the breakup. Finally, he looked up, his eyes a bit red. He said, "Brother hopes that you'll have a better and better life in the future. If that bastard Zoe bullies you again, tell me, and I'll still give you a hand." I gratefully bid farewell to Charles and the unbearable past 8 years. The second person to find me was Charles's wife, Linda. she was still as haughty as ever, dressed in famous brands and with a delicate makeup. She got straight to the point and confessed that she and Charles had long been a couple in name only. The reason she had retaliated against me before was simply that the gigolo she had kept had cheated her out of money and then broken up with her, and was going to keep another mistress. She was tired of such a life, so she wanted to have a proper life with Charles. She said sincerely that she knew Charles planned to have a child with me and pleaded with me to let Charles go. I suddenly felt it was ridiculous and also very sad, watching the legal wife being submissive to me, a mistress. I felt a long-lost sense of self-loathing well up inside me. In front of her, I slapped myself hard and said that I didn't blame her, whether they were in harmony or not. The fact that I was a mistress couldn't be denied, and I confessed that over the years, I was grateful that she hadn't sued me to return the joint property of the husband and wife. She was silent for a long time before saying that she had investigated my past and thought I was indeed pitiful. Moreover, the money Charles had spent on me was less expensive than the house she had bought for the gigolo. She hoped that I could live a decent life in the future. I had heard such words countless times in the past 10 years. Many people couldn't understand how someone who was once a prospective provincial top scorer in the college entrance examination could end up like this. The onlookers said that I still wasn't working hard enough and just wanted to get something for nothing. Otherwise, with my ability, I should be living a better life than I am now. But how could the onlookers know that I, who had experienced great changes at the age of 18, didn't even have the strength to commit suicide? How could I, as written in the novels, break out of the quagmire and transform into a butterfly with my own will? After promising Linda that I would never contact Charles again, I said goodbye to her. In the evening, I received a call from Snow. The thing at your daughter's school wasn't done by me. I didn't know that child was yours and Zoe's. I'm sorry, maybe it was my parents who did it. Harm should not extend to relatives. I apologize to you on behalf of my parents. If there's anything you need me to compensate for, feel free to ask. Her tone was still so elegant and composed, just like when we first met. No matter what the tone was, I could feel her natural kindness towards women. Parents love their children deeply, and Snow had been raised to be a very good person. If my parents were still alive, and if I had really gone to the top university as a provincial top scorer, then I should also have become such a good person. Finally, Snow said, I really liked Zoe, but I'm such a good person that Zoe doesn't deserve me. It seemed that everything had finally settled down. My mother was admitted to the best hospital in the city and received the most advanced treatment. A senior caregiver took care of her 24 hours a day without leaving her side, and her emotions visibly stabilized. Zoe was like an unemployed vagrant every day, just hovering around me and Sarah. Now it was a bit like a romantic novel. He played out all the scenes of a domineering CEO chasing his wife in the novels one after another. He presented the best of everything to me with the most pious attitude. He constantly observed my expression. As soon as I frowned slightly, he would confess his mistakes in a panic, fearing that I wouldn't accept his repentance. He said, I know I deserve to die and don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't have much time left. Soon I won't have the strength to carry Sarah up the mountain and watch her grow up. I just want to make up for what I owe you and Sarah in my last days. He took out a velvet box from his pocket, knelt down on one knee, and opened it with trembling hands. I know I don't deserve to hope, but would you please marry me? I've made a will. After I die, all my property will go to you and Sarah. His voice choked up, and I looked at him, feeling nothing in my heart. I agreed, not because of love, but for Sarah's future. I wanted my daughter to be able to look others in the eye confidently and then straighten her back and tell everyone she wasn't an illegitimate child. Her father had just died. I had a simple wedding with Zoe because his body couldn't bear too many activities. Zoe's parents watched their once high-spirited son, now emaciated and pale, from the audience. They shed tears of sorrow and held Sarah's hand tightly, as if she were their only hope. They cried the hardest at the wedding. After the wedding, we didn't have any physical intimacy, because he wasn't capable of it anymore. We went on a honeymoon and lived in a new house just like an ordinary loving couple. Whenever Zoe was in so much pain that he wanted to bang his head against the wall and commit suicide, I would gently stop him. I would hold him and comfort him, saying, What would Sarah and I do if you died? You must hold on. I was really afraid that if I didn't give him some strength, he might not be able to hold on and commit suicide. What then? He was getting off too easily. In half a year, Zoe felt that he could be forgiven by me before he died and could enjoy the last bit of happiness, so he had no regrets about dying. my continuous encouragement had an effect. He really endured the pain of chemotherapy time and time again and took the initiative to force himself to eat every day with great willpower. The top foreign medical team specially assembled by the Zoe family actually brought the good news that he might be cured. Before I could fully digest this good news, even worse news came one after another. My mother still heard the news. After all, the truth couldn't be hidden forever. The news of my marriage to Zoe reached my mother's ears. I received a call from the hospital saying that she had attempted suicide by swallowing a needle. When I rushed to the hospital, several nurses had a hard time holding down my mother, who only had half of her body. My mother was in a crazy state, cursing me with the most vicious words she could think of with red eyes. How could you marry him? He's the murderer who killed your father, you shameless jinx. Why don't you go and die? It's you who should die. Go and die quickly. She grabbed everything she could throw and threw it at my head fiercely. I let the blood from my forehead flow into my eyes and helped hold my mother down to make it easier for the nurse to give her a sedative. When she woke up and saw me, exhausted and sleeping beside her, her rough fingers gently covered the wound on my forehead. Daughter, I'm sorry for you all this time. In fact, Mom doesn't hate you. I hate myself for dragging you down for so many years. Mom knows all the hardships you've endured. Mom knows. She covered her mouth and cried carefully, afraid of waking me up, even though she had already seen my arms soaked in tears. Mom loves you, so Mom is begging you, let me be free. Dragging down my only daughter and hurting my dearest daughter uncontrollably is more painful than death for me. I knelt in front of her bed and kowtowed heavily. I was so selfish. I had ignored my mother's despair. I could only kowtow and beg her not to leave me, not to abandon me. I remembered the days before I was 18 years old. Even though I was already an adult, my mother would still buy me the best sandalwood comb and comb my hair herself. She said, my baby's such beautiful hair needs to be well taken care of. I disliked the comb she bought because it was an old-fashioned style. So she spent several sleepless nights wearing glasses and learning to paint. Then she painted the most popular tomcat goddess on the comb stroke by stroke. I still kept that funny-looking comb even after I cut my long hair. My mother was a gentle and intellectual woman, always the peacemaker in the family. My father believed in exam-oriented education, and I suffered a lot from studying since I was a child. Once, I studied until late at night. My mother brought 2 cups of warm milk and secretly handed one to my father, who was accompanying me. After my father fell asleep, she said with both heartache and pride, go to sleep, baby, your father has been too much recently. He's made my daughter lose weight from studying so hard. I put some sleeping pills in your father's milk. You should rest now. Every time the season changed, there were always new clothes in my wardrobe. And there would always be a dish I liked the most on the dining table day after day. How could I let such a mother leave me? I didn't want to be a child without a mother. Mom, I'm sorry. I was sobbing uncontrollably. Besides apologizing, I didn't know how to make my mother forgive me. I hated Zoe and never stopped hating him for a single moment, especially after learning that he might be cured. That thought of pretending to let go of the past and deceive myself was completely exposed. When the TV drama, Empresses in the Palace, was very popular, I couldn't really empathize with the line, every time I interact with you, I feel extremely disgusted. After meeting Zoe again, this sentence echoed in my mind over and over again with 100 times more intense emotion than the characters in the TV drama. So, when Zoe, despite his illness, told me with great excitement that he would definitely hold on, stay with me for a few more years, and watch Sarah grow up, I sneered and pulled my hand out of his grasp. Then I wiped it with a disinfectant wipe over and over again. I leaned close to his ear and uttered the most vicious curses word by word. Don't worry, as soon as you die, I'll immediately remarry with your property and make Sarah call someone else dad. I'll go to mountain and pray for you day and night, asking the Bodhisattva to ensure that you continue to suffer in hell. I don't want to see you in this life, the next life, or even in 10 reincarnations. It seems that God has heard my prayer. He exchanged the suffering my whole family has endured in the past 10 years for your advanced cancer. Do you know how you can make me forgive you? Do you know how you can atone for your sins? Only if you die. Zoe's body froze. Shock was the first emotion to spread in his eyes. Then, that disbelief gradually turned into excruciating pain as if his heart was being torn apart. He tried to grab me, but I dodged him in disgust. It seemed that he suddenly couldn't make any sound in his throat. He could only let his lips tremble and his tears fall. Finally, he slowly closed his eyes, covering all his despair and pleading, he finally accepted the fact that I hadn't forgiven him at all. The next day, Zoe died. I pretended to help with Zoe's funeral, and before the 7th day after his death had passed, I changed Sarah's surname back to my surname. At the same time, I immediately removed myself from Zoe's household registration. I didn't care what Zoe's parents thought. Sarah didn't need grandparents who couldn't even raise their son well. Moreover, what did it matter if I changed the surname? Either the old couple could try to have another child, or all of the Zoe family's wealth would have to be inherited by Sarah in the future. My daughter only needed to spend the Zoe family's money, but it would be best if she didn't become a member of the Zoe family. After my mother learned of Zoe's death, miraculously, her mental illness was completely stabilized. She quickly returned to a healthy and regular routine of having 3 dishes and 1 soup and an extra bowl of rice, and she never tried to commit suicide again. Now she could maintain a stable state just by taking medicine. I spent a high price customizing a prosthetic limb for her. When she was in a good mood, she would even ask me to help her put on the cheongsam she used to like the most. She also gradually accepted Sarah's existence, just like when she painted the comb for me when I was a child. She painted for Sarah clumsily and awkwardly. Sarah was really sensible, although these elders were all strange to her, but she wasn't close to the grandparents who doted on her. Instead, she liked to snuggle up beside her disabled grandmother and patiently watch her grandmother paint for her. I finally felt at ease. I studied hard to take the adult college entrance examination and then prepared for the postgraduate entrance examination. This was my father's wish for me, and I would fulfill it, until I could get the postgraduate certificate and push my mother for a walk in the morning light when the sun was rising. That would be my true rebirth. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.